Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We considered the Savicara-nirvicara Samapatti planes, which are with respect to subtle metaphysical matters. And it is not only that nirvitarka samapatti and nirvicara samapatti give certain revelations, because the yogis are known for revelations, realizations, sakshatkar, intuitive, mystic realizations of the truth. It is not only that truth revelation, but in truth revelation there is enormous bounty and endowment. Because for common man, the truth as dharma can only fetch punya. There will be punya sanchayam and dharma sanchayam by practice of truth, by being in truth. And yogis not only be in truth, like satya as a principle which comes in yamas, but yogis by the samadhi, by samadhi prajna, realize the truth. So it is important to understand here, to be practicing truth, what is it? To be in truth, what is it? To be knowing the truth, what is it? To be realizing the truth, what is it? And this knowledge of truth, realization of the truth, all these things take place in empirical plane. The thought process will perhaps help you realize what is truth, know what is truth, identify what is truth. But then intuitive mystic process gives you satya ksatkaram. And this concept of sakshatkaram is intuitive mystic aspect. It doesn't take place by cerebral process. It is not by temporal process. It is not knowledge whereby you say you know the truth. So you want to know the truth, you are knowing the truth, and you will know the truth. All these things happen in empirical plane by cerebral process. Whereas satya sakshatkaram is samadhi prajna, samadhi process. It only happens in samadhi. There is no alternative means for satya sakshatkaram. And here we have seen what is sakshatkaram is yogi gets the experience by becoming. So it's not just knowledge of truth, it is by becoming. And that we saw during the Samapatti topic, which we just now concluded, that there is becoming, there is transformation, samadhi is transformation, citta is transformed into truth, and that is how yogi realizes truth. We realize the truth objectively and we say that is truth and this is truth, and I know the truth. We don't become truth by itself. Whereas in samadhi process there is this becoming. So no doubt nirvitarka samapatti, nirvicara samapatti are for truth, not only realization, not only revelation, but becoming. That is called samadhi prajna, where yogi becomes something to really know something. And that's for it is not knowledge, it is not empirical knowledge with the trinity of knower, knowing, known. In our temporal process, the triad remains. There is knower, there is knowing, there is known. And therefore you say, I am knower, I know this. Or I am knowing this and I know this now. So the tripartite division remains in cerebral process, brain process, empirical process, temporal process. However you are engrossed, howsoever you are engrossed, yet the triad is not set aside. But in intuitive mysticism and Samadhi prajna, we have seen this during Samadhi, Samprajnat Samadhi topic, and now during Samapatti topic, that there is becoming. And that is called intuitive mystic revelation. Intuitive mystic revelation is by citta transformation into the object of knowledge, and therefore there is becoming of that. So, by Samapatti, it is not just that, particularly with reference to nirvicara Samapatti. Now, why is it that Patanjali doesn't say by nirvitarka Samapatti? Because nirvitarka Samapatti has to escalate into a higher stage, which is nirvicara Samapatti. It's not that what Patanjali is going to mention here or has mentioned in the sutra, nirvicharas vaisharadhyaihi adhyatma prasadaha. So he is mentioning that by proficiency in nirvicara samapatti there is adhyatma prasada. That doesn't mean that by nirvitarka samapatti there is no adhyatma prasada, because it entails, nirvicara samapatti entails precedence of nirvitarka samapatti. Not having nirvitarka samapatti, there is no nirvicara samapatti. But nirvitarka samapatti has to graduate, has to evolve, has to escalate, has to go a step further, and that is nirvicara samapatti. So there is a continuum between nirvitarka and nirvicara samapatti. And therefore, in saying that by nirvicara samapatti there is adhyatma prasada, it also implies that nirvitarka too has contributed for nirvichara to be fetching adhyatma prasada. So, what is to be understood here, that this samadhi is not just giving a kind of exalted knowledge called samprajnanam. It's not just knowledge. It's not that yogi excels in knowledge, but by nirvichara samapatti there is another endowment of samadhi prajna, which is adhyatma prasadam. So the following sutras are very fascinating, because he says that adhyatma prasada comes up, and by adhyatma prasada he also tells us what is adhyatma prasada by saying that tatra ritambara prajna. There is a prajna called ritambara prajna. So we will be trying to know what is ritambara prajna. Shrutanumana prajnabhyam anya vishaya vishesharthatvat is further description of that ritambara prajna. So it's a fascinating process to understand the yogi in his prajna. It's not that yogi is merely more intelligent than you and me and every one of us, but it's a kind of knowledge whereby it is called adhyatma prasada, and adhyatma prasada will be described in this sutra and following two sutras. And then the effect of it will follow as to what happens by adhyatma prasada. Because we are used to temple prasadam. We just take the temple prasadam and then it's a blessing. But then it ends there, having taken prasadam. So we come back home, or we depart from the shrine and come out, having taken prasadam. For some time there will be a blessed state in our mind until the mundane locust attack has not taken place. Once the mundanity has a locust attack on our mind, again we are back to square one. We mortals. So the effect of the temple prasadam for us, or puja prasadam for us, we know what it is and how much it is. How long does it work? So on the tangible plane, we see that it doesn't work too long, but actually internally it does work. Because after all, it is prasadam, it is puja prasadam, or it is yajna yaga prasadam, or it is temple prasadam. So it has its effects, long lasting effects, but they are not tangible and graspable to us. Therefore, we wait to be getting prasads more and more often, more and more and more often as possible. We try to get prasadam. Now, what is this adhyatma prasadam? The adhyatma prasadam is going to take yogi on the path, which is in the final lap of spiritual samam bonam. Thereafter, nothing needs to be attained. All that has to be attained in human spiritual endeavor is attained. So that's how here onwards there is wonderful passage that we are going to get to see how this prasad works on yogi and how it bestows the final stage in spiritual samam bodham called moksham, nirvanam, kaivalyam, etc. So, until the end of this path, we will have opening of this adhyatma prasada. So, adhyatma prasada by nirvicara samapatti is going to give yogi the spiritual samam bonam, the final stage and state of spiritual samam bonam, which is parama purushartham, which is moksham, nirvanam, kaivalyam. So this will take us through the entire chapter, and up to the end of this chapter, the fascinating aspect. So Hrudambara Prajna or the Adhyatma Prasada to understand completely, we will have to go until the 51st Sutra of the first Pada. So that will give us clear understanding as to what is Adhyatma Prasada. Anyway, Nirvicara Samapatti or Nirvicara Vaisharadhyaihi Adhyatma Prasadaha is what is the sutra with which a topic is commencing, which will take us up to the end of this chapter. So now there is one subject matter dealt with in the sutras from this current sutra, which is 148, to the culminating sutra of this Samadhi Padam. Anyway, what at the outset is to be said now here, that we will have to understand what is this Adhyatma Prasadam. The Nirvicara Samapatti pertains to subtle metaphysical aspects. The Sukshma, nominal, not phenomenal, metaphysical aspects, which are Tanmatra onwards. Tanmatra onwards up to Pradhana Tattvam, and then in the in the realm of Chit, It is Atma, Atma Jnanam, Purusha Jnanam, Purusha Sakshatkar, and Purushottama Sakshatkar, Parama Purusha Sakshatkar, Ishvara Sakshatkar. So, this is what is the Adhyatma Prasad is, that it will be giving everything up to that, which is spiritual samam bonum of human spiritual life. Now, since Nirvicara Samapatti pertains to Sukshma Tattvas, which just now we listed, these Sukshma Tattvas are subtler principles in our own manifestation. We identify ourselves with our nama and rupa, and then we say, this is me. We will perhaps tell our name, and if we are not physically present for a person, we will show a photograph. Somebody will show photograph that this is this person. This is the name of the person, this is the person, and all our identities end there. That's nama rupam. But then we are not just nama rupam. We are well beyond our nama rupam. And that is what Adhyatma tells us, that we are not merely what we appear to be, what we think of ourselves to be, what others think of ourselves, and what our name and name and family name or the name of the race suggests, etc. We are not just that. So the subtler principles take closer to who we are. Who are we? So that's called Adhyatmam. So we will have to understand here Adhyatma Prasadam. What is Adhyatma? And then Prasadam. Adhyatma Jnanam, Adhyatma Prasadam. We can get Adhyatma Jnanam. To start with, we should try to seek Adhyatma Jnanam. And then yogi, by Nirvicara Samapatti, would be getting Adhyatma Prasadam, which is the grace, blessed condition, blessed state for yogi, blesses for yogi, blessed condition for yogi, that is Prasadam. So Adhyatma Prasadam is definitely different than Adhyatma Jnanam. However, Adhyatma Jnanam is something very foundational. Not having Adhyatma Jnanam, you will not be getting Adhyatma Prasadam. So this also should be understood here. Now Adhyatma Jnanam, what is this Adhyatma and then Adhyatma Jnanam? You should recall that Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter tells us Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam Etad Jnanam Iti Proktam Ajnanam Yataha Ataha Anyaha. So Adhyatma Jnanam is only Jnanam. And rest of all actually is not Jnanam but Ajnanam. It will be Jnana relatively, but ultimately all that we consider as knowledge and all that we consider as Jnana by way of saying, I know this, I know that, is really Ajnanam. All pursuit of knowledge that we make, what is called as worldly knowledge, in the realm of worldly knowledge, is really Ajnanam if you juxtapose it to Adhyatma Jnanam. So Adhyatma Jnanam is something which is about the Nityatvam and Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam. It is for Tattva Jnanam. Tattva Jnanam to be actually cited and not just had in an empirical process. That is only Jnanam. So in the language of Bhagavad Gita, we have certain very vital concepts called Jnana Vijnana Sahitam. Jnanam Vijnanam. So the Jnanam is Atma Jnanam, Vijnanam is all that which is perhaps at some stage leading to Jnanam, but that itself is not Jnanam. So, in other realms, wherever you say that I know this, I know that, I know about this, I know economics, I know physics, I know chemistry, I know biology, I know botany, I know zoology, I know astronomy, I know astrophysics. So, all this knowledge which we acquire in an academy, acquire through books, which tells us about uh, the world for our practical purpose. So that is something that is Vijnanam, applied knowledge. Like you have classification of pure science and applied sciences. So the Jnana, when it becomes applied for us to be living in this world comfortably, living in this world with minimum problems, that would be something Vijnanam. So they are called Laukika Vidyas. In our classical academics, they are called Laukika Vidyas, and Adhyatma is Alaukika Vidya. Anyway, so that's what we call as spiritual knowledge. That spiritual knowledge that we speak about these days in our times is something that can be understood as Adhyatma Jnanam. So that is Adhyatma Jnanam. In the language of Bhagavad Gita again, in the 8th chapter, what is Adhyatmam, what is Adhidaivam, what is Adhibhutam, etc. are the questions which are answered in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So with regards to Adhyatmam, the briefest answer is Swabhavo Adhyatmam Uchyate. Swabhavaha, not Swabhavaha. Again, we need to have clarification here. In vernacular, modern Indian languages, Swabhava is a term that we are familiar with and we have used it overtly, and we have therefore lost the real shape of Swabhava, the word. Swabhava is considered as somebody's nature. Like somebody is magnanimous, somebody is miserly, somebody is angry by nature, somebody is compassionate by nature, somebody is loving by nature, somebody is good natured, somebody is bad natured. So we refer the word Swabhava to our nature. And our nature is actually not Prakriti, but it is Vikruti. It is more over Vikruti, but we refer to it as Prakriti. So that is what Swabhava has been taken. So therefore we need kind of disillusionment here. Philosophically, Swabhavaha, not Swabhava, Swabhava. Now what is this Swa? The Swa has been described and defined in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, where we will be telling us Swaswami Shaktyoho Swarupopalabdhi Hetu Sanyoga. The Swa comes there. Now, if you want to really understand what is this Swa, then there is only one way, by vernacular process, to understand the word Swa as it really means. Swa is that where my I, our I, our me ends. See, we ourselves are not our pronoun I. We are not just aham. And we are not just me. We are not just me. We are not just I am or aham or mama. There is a substrate for our aham to formulate. There is a substrate for our mama to formulate. So there is something as a substrate for our pronoun I entity, whereby we are used to declaring I am this, I am that, this is I am, this is me. So how does that experience of mamatva and ahamtva comes up? How does it come up? Ahamtva and mamatva, how does it come up? There is a substrate on which it comes, but we mistakenly think the aham itself is me. I itself is me. And that's how we carry out our laukik vyavahara, our business activity of life, by thinking that the me is I, the pronoun I. I am pronoun I, and the me is pronoun I. And then our business activity smoothly runs with it. So our experience of our ahamtva and mamatva is not the end of our, or source of our existence rather. It is not the source of existence. There is something underlying it, what is called as Atma Chaitanyam, and therefore we get this asmita by way of aham, or aspita by way of mamatvam, ahamtva and mamatva. So there is this underlying reality because of which we get the I-ness and mine-ness. And in vernacular there is only one word again, not justifiably understood. That is called swa-anta, swanta, swanta sukhaya. We say that we do certain things for swanta sukhaya. Actually it is for swa sukhaya. If you are doing something for your pleasure, your own pleasure, it is called swa sukha. But there is an expression which the modern generation has failed to understand. The philosophers of some centuries ago, couple of centuries ago, were really knowing that there is something beyond swa, because of which the swa comes to existence. Because of our Atma Chaitanya, our pronoun I comes into existence. It's an offshoot of that metaphysical principle of Atma Chaitanyam. So ahamtva, mamatva are sprouts on something which really underlies these principles. That's the metaphysics in us. So when Bhagavad Gita says swa bhavo adhyatma uchyate, that swa means something, our existence, we beyond the mindness, the we beyond our I-ness. And only philosophy has the insight into it. We don't try to take insight into it. We just have to have the feeling, this is me and this is my pronoun I. So therefore you say, I am man, I am woman, I am young, I am old, I am occidental, I am oriental, I am healthy, I am unhealthy, I am intelligent, I am wise, I am unwise, etc., etc. I am rich, I am poor, I am strong, I am weak. So it is when we say that I am strong, I am weak, etc., it is not that entity which is strong or weak, but the body which that pronoun I has taken, that body is strong or weak. that mind is strong or weak. We are not body, we are not mind. But when we refer to ourselves as I am strong, I am weak, it is reference to body. Or when we say I am strong, I am weak, it is with reference to the mind. So we are not body, but we think we are body. We are not mind, but we think we are mind. We have a body and we have a mind. This is what is reality. So the swa is that phase of ourselves which doesn't have delimitations, which comes up in Jagruta Avastha. And you should recall in our consideration of Nidra Jnanam, we saw there that we are very much there in sleep, and that's why after our sleep we say, I slept well. When you say you slept well in sleep, you were not what you are known in the world, that you are a man, you are young, old, this is the name, that is the surname, or this is your caste, that is your creed, this is your gender, this is your age, etc., etc. So, of course we sleep, but what is that which sleeps? It doesn't have all the nama rupam. And that's why, if you recall, I had said in that statement that Chaitra is sleeping or Maitra is sleeping, but one who is sleeping is not Chaitra or Maitra. We become nameless. In state of sleep, we become nameless. We don't have name, we don't have family name, we don't have genetic background, genealogical background, we don't have ancestry. We are just being. And that being sleeps. And when the being sleeps, we say that it is a state of sleep for being. It's not a state. It is after our sleep is over, then we say that it was a state of sleep. While in sleep, we don't have any state. Because we don't have any delimitation. We are neither father nor son, neither mother nor daughter, neither husband nor wife, neither master nor subservient, neither rich nor poor, neither healthy nor unhealthy, neither intelligent nor stupid. But still we are there. So, that is the swa. That means our profile in a state of dreamless sleep is really swa. And then something that is done beyond my consideration, if I do something, without the consideration of me in me and mine of me, if I do something, then that is beyond the swa. Swanta Sukhaya is something that it is not that you do because you like it, because what likes it is delimited pronoun I, and therefore you have likes and dislikes and something you like. So it is not proper to take to mean that what you like, if you do, it is called Swanta Sukhaya, it is Swa Sukhaya. It is Swa Sukhaya. The Swanta Sukhaya is something transcendent. It is transcendent to worldly condition. So Swa is that. And therefore Swabhava, the state of presence for that Swa is Swabhava, Swabhava. And that is Adhyatma. That means our Swabhava, our Swa doesn't have caste, class, creed, gender, status, stage, condition, etc. That is the Swa. And then all these things get mounted in an aniruddha state of consciousness or a wakeful state of consciousness. Then we become somebody. Then somebody is somebody to us. And everybody is somebody to us, or we are somebody to everybody and anybody. So that aspect we have repeatedly considered. So that is swa. And so swabhavo adhyatma uchyate. When Bhagavad Gita is saying there is lot of intriguing for worldly intelligence, temporal intelligence, empirical intelligence. If you understand, you can't express it out. If you are expressing what you have understood, then it is not that here. The swa is something that it is to be experienced and not to be spelled out or not to be explicable about it. So it is something like that, swa. So adhyatma means to have philosophical inquiry into ourselves. Like it will come in Yoga Sutras at some stage. Who am I? Whence am I? From where have I come and where am I going and who am I now? What is all this around me? Why is all this around me? So when you have answers to these questions, that is called adhyatma jnanam, to be putting in some kind of expression. We only know that I am existing, but who am I is totally unknown to us. And that is why in philosophy we are told about self-inquiry. Who am I is a matter of self-inquiry. None of us have carried out that inquiry, and we don't need that inquiry for worldly activity or business activity of life. What we need to know about ourselves is, what is my family? If I have someone great in my ancestry, I should know, so that I can use the name. My father is great, so I will use the name of my father. My grandfather is great, so I will use the name of my grandfather or great grandfather or some remote ancestry. That is what comes handy for us in the world. So if you are somebody's a son who is a well-known person, renowned person, then you have some advantage. Or if your grandfather is renowned person, well-known person, celebrity, etc., then you have an advantage. So, if you are asked to give your account, what you call as a biological account, what will you be saying? You won't be saying, I am immortal, I am birthless, I am deathless, etc., which philosophy tells you about it. You will say who you are, stating your family background, your ethnic background, your cultural background, your ancestry, your genetic background, genealogical background, etc. And then what you have attained in this life. What have you been doing in this life, and what are your accomplishments in life? That is what we will tell the world about our bio account. Nobody will say, I am birthless and deathless, diseaseless, decayless, immutable, etc., etc. But that is what we actually are. That's the adhyatma. Who essentially are we? Who are we essentially, quintessentially? From where have we come? Rather than giving an answer that I have come from my mother's womb, there is enormous, huge answer behind it. The entire karmic background. We have come from our karmic background. It is naive to say that I have come from my parents. That's okay for biological purpose, biological definitions. But we are much more than that. So from where have we come? The philosophy has an altogether different answer. Where are we going? What answer will we have? And what is really the answer in philosophy, that is the real answer. Where are we going? From where have we come? Why have we come? How have we come? Where are we going? Why are we going? How are we going? So these are all answers. When they come in philosophical channel, that is adhyatma. So Patanjali will tell us about this when we deal with aparigraha and aparigraha sthairiyam. Because the sutra is aparigraha sthairiyai janma kathanta sambodha. And Vyasa describes what is janma kathanta sambodham. And there, this is the answer which I told you just now. Who am I? From where have I come? Why have I come here? And where am I going? Why am I going there? Why will I be going there? Where should I be going? Where should I be going? So all these inquiries which come in philosophical channel of life, that is called adhyatma. And now Patanjali is telling us here adhyatma prasadaha. Nirvicara vaisharadhyaihi adhyatma prasadaha. So, little introduction to adhyatma. Therefore, you also need to know about other aspects, which the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita has commenced to explain. You can't just say that I will know only adhyatma. Because for adhyatma you need to know what is adhibhutam, adhidaivam. So this is important concept in Indian philosophy. Adhibhutam, adhidaivam, adhyatmam. Adhibhautikam, adhidaivikam, adhyatmikam. So for one inquiry, you will have to have inquiry into all three. You just can't know adhibhautikam. You can know bhautikam. You don't have to know daivikam. You don't have to know the atmam. But for knowing adhibhautik, you have to know adhidaivik and adhyatmik. To know adhidaivik, you have to know adhyatmik and adhibhautik. To know adhyatma, you have to know adhibhautik and adhidaivik. But to be knowing bhautik, daivik and atmik, you need not know all the three. But adhi bhautikam, adhi daivikam, adhi atmikam, it implies that you must know the three, and that's why Bhagavad Gita mentions the three in that sutra. Additionally, Bhagavad Gita scores out which no Upanishad has such a terminology, which is adhyagnyam. So it is worthwhile to go into 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and get little idea about adhibhautikam, adhidaivikam, adhyatmikam, adhyagnyam. And with that, you will be able to have little idea of that adhyatma, which again very briefly he mentions in Bhagavad Gita, swabhavo adhyatma uchyate. So it's our constitution, our embodiment. It's the constitution of our embodiment, which is adhibhautik aspect, adhidaivik aspect, adhyatmic aspect. And then what we really are, we are adhyatmic. And therefore, for adhyatmic pursuit, we must also have minimum idea of adhibhautikam, minimum idea of adhidaivikam. So, here when he says you have adhyatma prasadaha, you should know that there is also adhibhautik grace, adhidaivik grace, but for the topping of all that is adhyatmic grace. Like you have icing on the cake. Just icing is not cake. There has to be a cake and there is icing on the cake. So just cake is not so appreciated. And just icing is also not appreciated, but something should be icing on the cake. So adhyatmikam is icing on the cake of grace, the divine grace, spiritual grace. So one will be graced in adhibhautik aspects, adidaivik aspects, and by being graced in adhyatmic aspects. That's the icing on the cake. Adhyatma prasada means icing on the cake, and therefore there is a cake as well. It's not that we throw the cake away and just eat the icing over the cake. So that is adhyatma prasada, which also implies adhibhautika grace, adidaivika grace as well. And in the language of Bhagavad Gita, even adhiyagnya grace. So that is enunciation to this adhyatma prasada. Now what is prasada? Prasada is something which is a blessing, blessed state, blessedness in our mind. We know happy mind, delightful mind. We know predicates such as happy mind, delighted mind, tranquil mind, quiet mind, serene mind, etc., sublime mind, sedate mind, passive mind, noble mind, etc. But then that which scores over all this is called blessed mind. Blessedness in the mind. If there is blessedness, there is no shortcoming in you. But if you are just quietude of the mind, so many things are absent which you really want. You just don't want quietness. Once you get quietness, you will aspire for something else. You will say, now let me have this. Like somebody who is aspiring to become millionaire. He becomes millionaire and then aspires to become billionaire. Then becomes billionaire, then aspires to become trillionaire. It really doesn't end. And that's why millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire, quadrillionaire, pentallionaire, sextillionaire, septillionaire, octillionaire, novillionaire, and decillionaire. Doesn't stop there also. So, all those things, even if you get like tranquility, neutrality, virginity, sublimity, purity, piety, happiness, delightfulness. So if you are delighted, still you want something more. If you are tranquil, you want something more. It is something different and something more. But when you are blessed, in a blessed condition, you really need nothing else. So understand the blessedness of the mind. When there is blessedness in the mind, you don't need anything. But if you have delighted mind, you need so many things thereafter. You just don't want to be delighted. You want to be contented. You want to be happy, etc., etc. You want to be in peace. Just delight is not peace. Even after delight, you want peace. Even with peace, you want delight. So there are deficiencies in each predicate that we accord to our mind. But then blessedness is something that once that is there is no deficit of anything. There is no shortcoming of anything. So that is blessedness. And the prasadam is that which gives you blessedness. That's the word prasadam. And here it is supreme form of prasadam, which is called adhyatma prasadam. So, the yogi will get that blessedness in him, in his citta, whereby nothing needs to be aspired, nothing needs to be desired, nothing is expected to be desired to be expected. So see the journey towards accomplished state taking place with Adhyatma Prasada. So if one has to have spiritual accomplished state, understand how Adhyatma Prasada is indispensable. Without Adhyatma Prasada, you will not have that contentment which is sought after in spiritual pursuit and which is the goal in spiritual pursuit. So that is Adhyatma Prasadam. So this is very primary and preliminary meaning that I am giving you to the sutra Nirvicara Vaisharadhyaihi. That means by proficiency in Nirvicara Samapatti, there is Adhyatma Prasadaha. Now we will have to understand what is this Adhyatma Prasadam. I gave you a little introduction to Adhyatma. That is getting close to our essential, quintessential, the core aspect within us. Going close to that is Adhyatma. And in our worldly business of life, we go away from our core aspect, and therefore we are able to move in the worldly gravities and perhaps even succeed in worldly gravities. If once you turn to yourself, then you will not be getting these worldly successes which you can get by going outwardly, by becoming outwardly, by being outwardly. So laukikam. So if you depart from the core aspect in you, you are getting into the gravity of laukikam. And when you slowly shun yourself or withdraw yourself from the laukika gravity, that means you are going towards adhyatmam, close to your centric aspect, central aspect, core aspect. Atma is our core. That being, that self is at the core of our existence. And now we know what is these peripheral aspects and how they are away from the core, distinct from the core, in contraposition of the core. Our peripheral aspects are in contraposition to the core. That is why it is called Maya. All this is called Maya. At core, we are Amrita Purusha. At core, we are birthless, deathless, decayless, diseaseless, ageless, faultless, immaculate, spotless, dentless. So the Atma has been described, and we have considered the description of Atma in some earlier occasions. Bhagavad Gita in the second chapter also mentions the Atma, how the Atma is. Atma cannot be dried, cannot be wetted, cannot be burned, cannot be cut, etc., etc. Are we that? If you take at our peripheral manifestation, we can be killed, we can be diseased, we can be attacked, we can be burnt, we can be blown. But the core of it, core of ourselves is something which cannot be burned, which cannot be heated, which cannot be cooled, which cannot be cut, which cannot be divided, which is without any hunger and thirst. But see the peripheral appearance of us. Are we without any hunger and any thirst? Not possible. Are we without any dent and taint? Not at all. We are full of taints and full of dents. But the core aspect, see, we are developing contrary condition the more we come away from the core. So Adhyatma means going closer to our core existence, core status. And opposite of Adhyatma is to come away from our core condition. Therefore we start developing name, form, class, caste, creed, gender, status, stature, etc. Atma doesn't have all that. We have it. We are Atma. We are Atma, but we have it. Our Atma doesn't have it. So this is the innermost core aspect of us. that is Atma, and when we are having any discussion close to that core aspect in us, that is called Adhyatma. When we are pursuing in that direction, it is called Adhyatma sadhana. When we depart from that, then it is opposite. It is Laukika sadhana, Prapanchika sadhana, worldly sadhana. But when we depart from the worldly gravities and go towards our core, what we call a spiritual practice in our times, that is Adhyatma. And here, what is spoken of is Adhyatma prasada. So let's try to understand what is this Adhyatma prasada. So still we have not really commenced the sutra. This is all a kind of prologue or enunciation to the topic of the sutra, which is nirvicara vaisharadhyahi adhyatma prasadaha. Anyway, that should be enough for this session. Let us proceed to understand what it is with the text of Patanjali and commentary of Vyasa. But that is next time. Namaskar all of you.